Hi, everyone. Welcome to this critical webcast on how to stop the forced funding of taxpayer abortion. My name is Kristan Hawkins. I'm the president of Students for Life Action. I want to join you thank you for joining us and all the critical leaders that we have gathered on this call today to talk about a call to action that we need your help with, and right now. Today, you're going to hear from folks who've been tirelessly working on Capitol Hill and in Washington, D.C. over decades to end the misappropriation of scarce taxpayer dollars and resources to abortion vendors like Planned Parenthood. And you're going to learn what you can do to help push this battle over the finish line, how we can stop the forced funding of abortion. Now, there's something going on in Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill, in the House and the Senate called budget reconciliation. And through a process called budget reconciliation, a new budget is being crafted that will soon be voted on by both chambers of Congress and sent to the White House for approval. Our goal is to see Planned Parenthood and big abortion defunded of our taxpayer dollars once and for all through this process. President Trump, we have heard you loud and clear throughout the campaign and since you've been sworn in. You want to end the federal entanglement of the politically powerful abortion lobby in federal politics. But in order to do that, we have to end the forced funding of abortion vendors like Planned Parenthood. Our political leadership has been listening to voices like yours, but now we are in the final days, the final moments, and it's all coming down to the wire. So today we are standing together as a pro-life movement to call on Congress to stop the forced funding of abortion with our taxpayer dollars. And we're calling on you to join us to make sure this goal, this massive goal of the pro-life movement, becomes a reality. Our first speaker today is president of the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America organization, Marjorie Dannenfelser. Marjorie, thank you for getting on today. You've been on Capitol Hill for weeks and months now since President Trump has been sworn in. What is your reaction? Can you tell everybody what your reaction to the news that came out last night about the draft budget reconciliation bill and what it means for big abortion vendors like Planned Parenthood?
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Kristan, for that nice introduction. I really appreciate it. This is a momentous occasion. All the people that are on this webcast, everyone listening, you've created a moment that will do something about I think, the biggest threat to human rights in our country, the organization that's the biggest threat to human rights in this country, that began before any of us were born. I'm going to go through what the process is like on Capitol Hill. I'm not too far away from there right now, and where our office is at Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. But I first want to just give a little context, and that is to think about the history of this organization, who started Planned Parenthood, who started with the premise that people were our problem, that somehow those that are weak in others' eyes, those are imperfect in others' eyes, are the ones to be discarded and taken away. And that is like the beginning of the 1900s, like 1915. Margaret Sanger, who said the most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. And about Catholics, she said they're an unceasingly spawning class of human beings who never should have been born at all. Every single thing that they have done over the last 110 years resonates from those central statements. They deal in death in the guise of liberation and freedom and joy for women, inverting the truth in ways that, frankly, only evil could manipulate. So, of course, with all the years that they've had, starting in 1972, we started funding them. Our parents started funding them. Maybe your grandparents, Kristan, started funding them. And what did they do with that trust from the taxpayers? From that point on, they left the idea about only being about contraception, but they did cling to the idea that people, babies, are the problem. And they have a track record, if you've been paying attention, at all, but you may not know, if you weren't around then, for one thing, that they facilitated the trafficking of young women by getting rid of their problems so that they'd go back out on the streets and report back to their traffickers that all is well. This is real and documented by Live Action and others. Also participated in the trafficking of the parts of baby body parts, their eyeballs, their livers, their spleens being sold to business, to research, and once again, in the advance of humankind, somehow the great liberator, Planned Parenthood, has turned out also to be falling under the weight of its own misdeeds. All that they have said about people being the problem and serving women has turned out to be quite the opposite. They have led to the undermining of women, their happiness, their flourishing. They've called women's health care only one thing: getting rid of the child. And then, of course, the repercussions we will hear a little bit more about in this podcast. So you're on the right side of history. We all are, but we've just begun a process on Capitol Hill. For the first time in all of those years, we have the greatest chance to take $500 million out of their coffers, something that a crumbling organization cannot withstand, and give them a punch for 10 years. They certainly can reorganize, because evil usually does, but they certainly will. This will be a death knell for their organization, and a well-deserved one. So I know Kristan gave the setup about what just happened in that great opportunity. Again, never has happened before. Here we are, but we're at the beginning of the process with this language being in the bill. And let me just give you a sense of all the steps that have to happen and how vital your advocacy is to every congressman that you know. I don't care if you think it's worthwhile or not. It is. Every voice to every member in the most effective ways that you can through all the organizations here is needed. And also the Trump administration, they need to hear that you're there, that you're not to be taken for granted, that he will also be on the right side of history when this happens. So first, it's in the budget bill. It's going to go to the Rules Committee. I'm sorry, it's in the Energy and Commerce bill. It'll go to the Budget Committee, where that'll all be, all the other millions of items that are in this huge bill will all be knit together. It'll go to the Rules Committee so that they have the rules for debate. Then it has to go to the House floor, where that will be quite theatrical. I bet some of us will be there watching. So please do watch when that floor debate happens. Then with God's grace and your work, it's still in the bill. The bill will go to the Senate. It will continue in the Senate. The Senate's charge is to come up with the identical bill as the House. It has to be identical for it to then go to the president. So it has to go through what's called the bird bath, which is a abstruse parliamentary procedure, which just means it has to affect the budget. And it can't be a political or ideological thing. So we've done this once before. We think we're going to be okay, but that area needs a lot of prayer as well, that the parliamentarian will let this move forward. Then it goes to the budget in the Senate. Then there'll be a huge all-night vote-a-rama where senators will vote on amendment after amendment after amendment after amendment. We have to pray that it withstands that. Then it will go to, after that, they'll have their bill. House and Senate bills have to go to the conference, go to one conference, and then they come up with one big, beautiful bill at the request of the president. We pray at that point that will end the forced funding of abortion in this country and big abortion that it is created. And then the president will sign. This will take several months. So anybody like me who needs to double up on focus medication, let's just do it. Know that every single step of the way, there are going to be distractions. There's going to be discouragements. The Lord wants you right in the center of this love, right in the center of this process. For it to be derailed would mean that we would not have another chance for decades, potentially. It would not likely be in this administration.
So bottom line, Marjorie, what you're saying is, so the budget that came out yesterday evening, quite a mother's gift to all of us, is defunding Planned Parenthood, big abortion of our taxpayer dollars for 10 years, which is, if you want to ask, that's the maximum you can do in a budget reconciliation bill. Yep. But what you're saying is we've got to get it through the House and we've got to get through the Senate the exact same way.
Yeah. And it's already taken a long time to get here. And another bottom line is that it won't necessarily be 10 years in the Senate bill. They could cut that down to 1. So every single step of this, pay attention, focused attention. And thank you, Kristan, for the opportunity to talk to all our friends.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the excellent explanation. I think, what we've said and we've been telling our grassroots, I know in the pro-life movement for months, is that budget reconciliation is key because this will allow a vote to get through that doesn't meet that 60 vote threshold that you need in the Senate. Normally, when you would try to pass a bill in the Senate, you have to have 60 votes to invoke cloture and debate. This allows us to escape that. But Marjorie, you just outlined expertly all of these steps. And so this is why we've gathered you all on the call today, because as you can see, we are now at this beginning phase, and you might see news reports, budget defunds Planned Parenthood. Yes, the draft budget last night from the House Energy and Commerce Committee defunds Planned Parenthood for 10 years, but it's got to get through all of the steps. And Marjorie, are you concerned? I've been concerned. There are many in the House who are Republicans who are saying that they're pro-choice, that they want Planned Parenthood funded with our tax dollars. Do you think they're going to be a major problem?
They are a major problem. And one thing, we would not be at this point if it were not for the Speaker, Mike Johnson, who is dedicated to this for his lifetime. And he is dedicated to making this happen. He, with God's grace, has pulled some moves that I only can be attributed to prayer and his perseverance. And then also the perseverance of Lindsey Graham on the Senate side, who, by grace of God, is also the chairman of the Budget Committee in the Senate. So that will be a strong thing. To the moderates, yes. This in the House, they're not moderates. They're pro-abortion Republicans. And one is from, wants to run for governor in New York. That's Congressman Lawler. And then Mike Lawler. And then Brian Fitzpatrick in Pennsylvania, and is one of the best pro-life states in the country in terms of the grassroots. So the grassroots in Pennsylvania, the grassroots in New York, which are vast. Don't just think Manhattan, think all of pro-life New York, which is huge. And he wants to run for governor. So they need to hear from you. But everyone that you think might be rickety, and sometimes they all are. Let me tell you, some of the people that we think we can count on, sometimes just the fear gets into them, and we know where fear comes from. So just please do communicate. Even if you think it's a lost cause, it's not. Even if you think it's in the bank, it's not. And everyone in the middle.
Thank you for that, Marjorie. And thank you for your tireless and your team's tireless work on Capitol Hill. We wouldn't be here without you. And like you said, Speaker Mike Johnson deserves a lot of credit. And there's been prayer and I think miracles that have already happened to get us to this point. I want to next introduce my good friend Abby Johnson. Abby, as you all know, is once a director of a large Planned Parenthood abortion facility and now heads and founded And Then There Were None, which helps people working inside of the abortion industry get out and save lives. And Abby, we need you to give us some insight today, because when we often talk about defunding Planned Parenthood, defunding big abortion of our tax dollars, I often hear that there's no way that our tax dollars through Medicaid fund abortion operations. Can you tell us how the money really works on the inside of Planned Parenthood?
Oh, you're on mute.
Abby, unmute yourself.
Okay. Thanks for having me, Kristan. So yeah, ideally that would be true, right? That Planned Parenthood would have these separate bank accounts, right? That they would have a what they would call surgical services bank account, or that would be an abortion bank account, and that they would have a family planning bank account, right? But that is not the way that things work at Planned Parenthood. So Planned Parenthood has each facility has one big bank account. And so on days where they perform abortions, which is most days, they just go to the bank and they deposit $30,000, $40,000 in cash. And that goes into one bank account. There's not this big separation of funds. When the checks come in from insurance for the facilities that take insurance payments for abortion, that all goes into one bank account. And there have been quite a few lawsuits that have come out against Planned Parenthood that are called qui tam lawsuits, and those are Medicaid fraud lawsuits. I actually had a qui tam lawsuit come out against Planned Parenthood. These are Medicaid fraud lawsuits, and most of the time they are claiming, most of these Medicaid fraud lawsuits claim that Planned Parenthood is sort of double dipping into cash patient funds and also Medicaid funds. So the type of Medicaid, this Title 19 Medicaid that we're trying to defund right now. Title 19 funding, traditional Medicaid, what we're trying to take out of the budget right now is an unending well of funds. It is an unending well of cash for Medicaid providers. They can literally bill just about anything to Medicaid, and Medicaid will pay it. Okay. Nobody's going into the clinics and saying, okay, now, was this associated with an abortion or was it not? As long as the ICD-10 coding is correct and as long as the name that they bill matches the name in that patient's chart, they will pay it. And so what they're doing is, for instance, at my facility, a woman will come in, she'll pay $550 for a 7-week abortion. And then they will begin to unbundle those visits. They will begin to parcel out those visits. So what will Medicaid pay for? Well, they won't actually pay for the abortion itself, but they will pay for an ultrasound if they don't know that it's part of an abortion. They will pay for RH testing. They will pay for an actual visit, an office visit. They will pay for pregnancy testing. They will pay for all of these other recovery services. They'll pay for all these other things. And so not only is Planned Parenthood taking the $550 cash from the woman, or they're, billing a Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna or whatever, they're billing the insurance company for the abortion. But if that patient is also qualified for Medicaid services, they're also turning around and they're billing Medicaid for all of the services that are not actually the abortion itself. And I just want to say, people are like, what's the big deal? Why defunding Planned Parenthood? What's the big deal? What's the big deal? Because this is allowing Planned Parenthood to survive. Planned Parenthood does not make a lot of money on family planning services. The bulk of their funds are coming from abortion. Many, many of their funds are coming from these Medicaid fraud scams. When I came forward with my qui tam lawsuit, I was told by my criminal defense attorneys, Abby, if you go forward with this lawsuit, you could face prison time for doing this, because I had a state proffer, but I did not have a federal proffer. I had no federal immunity for being a part of this Medicaid scam. And they said, Abby, you can go to prison. And my criminal defense attorneys were like, please don't do this. You have children. Please don't do this. You can go to prison. And I was like, listen to me. If a qui tam lawsuit defunds Planned Parenthood, I will happily sit in prison, because I know how important it is to defund Planned Parenthood. Because if you defund them and you take away their funds, they cannot survive. And I will happily give up my freedom if that means that we are able to defund the largest abortion provider in our country. But we're not even asking you to do that. We're not asking you to go and risk your freedom and sit in prison. We're just asking you to make phone calls, call your representatives, write emails. We're asking you to do very, very simple things. And so that's how passionate we are. That's how passionate some of us are about ending abortion. That's how passionate some of us are about defunding Planned Parenthood. So we're just asking you to do very, very simple things.
That's perfect, Abby. And thank you for being so courageous and such a hero on this front for so many years, since really the day you walked out of Planned Parenthood. And I think you're a big reason why we're even here today. And we have this amazing opportunity to finally defund the nation's largest abortion vendor that's killed over 390,000 babies just last year alone. So we really, really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And Abby, you cut to the chase, by the way, because you're saying exactly what we want everyone who's watching to do this today is to start calling your members of Congress, your 2 senators, your House of Representative member, call Brian Fitzpatrick's office, congressman in Pennsylvania, call Mike Lawler's office, a congressman in New York, which, by the way, when I called them on my Instagram Live on Friday, told me they were proud Planned Parenthood supporters.
Yeah. I mean, you've just got to make the phone call. Like, they need to know that they are under pressure to do the right thing, even if they're like, oh, we're proud Planned Parenthood. Listen, I believe that the majority of people in this country do not support Planned Parenthood. And I think if they knew what Planned Parenthood was actually doing, they would not support what Planned Parenthood is doing. I just was talking to someone the other day on a university campus, and it was a guy, actually. And he said, well, what about all the other services? And I said, did you know that there's nowhere in the country where a Planned Parenthood exists where there isn't alternative health care? And did you know that, I mean, I worked at Planned Parenthood. I'm telling you that Planned Parenthood provides such limited gynecological care. I mean, if I had the option to go between a community health center and Planned Parenthood, I would choose a community health center every time because they provide such a wide array of services compared to Planned Parenthood. Why would you even choose Planned Parenthood?
Right.
And he was like, oh, I didn't know that. So that's part of what we're asking you to do too, is to bring awareness to what Planned Parenthood actually is, what they actually do. I mean, today it was funny. Today I had to schedule a mammogram, and Doug, my husband, goes, "Well, just call Planned Parenthood." It's kind of funny because we know that Planned Parenthood has never in their entire existence scheduled a mammogram for anybody. They don't have mammogram machines. But that's the joke, right? Because people are like, oh, if you defund Planned Parenthood, women won't be able to get mammograms. They don't do mammograms. We in the pro-life movement have to do a better job of educating our friends, our family. We're not asking you to go out and do a big web call where there's tens of thousands of people. There are people in your book clubs, in your churches, in your own family, in your friends group, the people that are on your own social media page that don't know this. And it's your job not to educate the world, not to educate your state, just to educate your own circle of influence. And you have the ability to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Abby. That's right on. When we do petitions and educational displays on campuses, we can change minds about Planned Parenthood so easily when you list all of the services that federally qualified health centers provide, how they actually care about patients, how they're not one of the largest political operatives in Washington, D.C. It's unbelievable when you try to line up federally qualified health centers, other community health clinics that already get our taxpayer dollars versus Planned Parenthood. It doesn't matter if you're pro-life or pro-choice. The choice is simple. You definitely don't want to go to Planned Parenthood. So thank you for that. I think that was an incredible reminder. Next up, I want to bring on our good friend, Penny Nance. Penny was there with me at the Supreme Court the day Roe fell. I'll never forget that. She serves as president and CEO of Concerned Women for America. And Penny, I know we've had a hard road since the end of Roe. It's certainly been very busy for us in the pro-life movement, and we're now at this massive fight today. Can you explain why you think that the pro-life grassroots really needs to take this next step, join us, and why our government must join us to stop the funding of abortion, and how with Roe gone, we're at this new place? Unmute yourself, Penny.
There you go. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for having me on, Kristan, and everything that's been said, I completely agree with. A couple of just kind of quick points. Isn't it shocking that Republicans, for whom Planned Parenthood has actively spent money against, I think they spent about $100 million trying to turn the election away from Republicans to Democrats and elect Kamala Harris, and the very people who are now griping, the members that you mentioned, their opponents were endorsed by Planned Parenthood. So I just think that's kind of funny how Republicans like to give their enemy the rope with which to hang them. At this point in our nation, we are $36 trillion in debt. And that is a destabilizing factor for our economy. It has long-term impact for the economic health of our country. Young people should be very worried about that. And yet, Planned Parenthood feels they're owed about $500 to $700 million of our tax dollars, and they are forcing Americans to pay for their dirty work, honestly. And we've already talked about how there's so many other options, the community health centers, and I come from rural America. You know, the rural health centers that are there to take care of the least of these, to take care of the poor, and to take care of the whole woman, not just offering them contraceptives, but caring for their overall health. The number one killer of women is heart disease. And, you know, you walk into a Planned Parenthood clinic as an obese woman with all these comorbidities, they're never going to say a word about any of that. Women need real care. And so we need to continue to fund the heroes that really do care for poor women, as opposed to this organization has this thin veneer of respectability, perhaps based on something they did in the past, but it's not where they are today. Today, 97% of what they do is abortion, in addition to the fact that they're the number 2 provider of trans chemicals to kids. And so where we are now, even if you don't have a problem with the abortion part, a lot of people on both sides of the aisle have recognized that cross-sex hormones to kids and adults is a bad idea, and it's very hurtful. And so here we are, Kristan, what an amazing moment standing beside you, shoulder to shoulder. Our people were out there every day waiting for the overturn of Roe, and it was like the highlight of my professional life. And you know, it's a moment I will never forget. But what I said at the time is what I will say now. It's based on the work that mostly women, men and women, and we're the women's group, by the way, that love men. But we recognize that women have stood up for this moment. They were the people who walked with their strollers and their babies on their hip at the March for Life and went door to door in the Capitol talking to their congressmen and marched in their state legislature.
Right.
But this was just the beginning. All that did was give us an opportunity to actually have the conversation, because of Planned Parenthood and Casey decision, we really couldn't limit abortion hardly at all. And so here we are. We're at this chance. We're at this moment where Republicans who say they're pro-life have the House, the Senate, and the White House. And if we can't do it now, we can never do it. And we've recognized that, you know, there's a lot against us. And there has been some moments where I literally have just prayed, Lord, help us. Like this is so hard. And there are people who are weak. But I will agree with Marjorie. Speaker Johnson has been incredible on this and deserves a lot of our thanks. But we have got to continue to work, do the activism, the direct activism, call your congressmen and senators. They represent you. You have a constitutional right and obligation to speak to them on these issues that directly impact your family.
That's right. You're right. And, you know, Penny, last week I got a call from a very well-known leader up in Capitol Hill, and he told me now is the time to pray, that this was an urgent situation. You got that same call, I think, a little bit before me. And then I think he was making his rounds, asking all of us to pray for him and pray for this defunding of big abortion and Planned Parenthood. So I know your organization is well known in leading women to pray. How would you guide us in how to pray for our leaders, and who should we be praying for on this issue to make sure we get to that final step of getting a budget to the White House, to President Trump, that does not include any taxpayer funds for Planned Parenthood?
Well, you're 100% right. We're a Christian women's organization. We're unapologetic about that. And we lead with that because we believe that prayer is the key. It's not the preparation for the battle, it is the battle. And so, there's a verse that actually the speaker shared with me, and he was talking about just leadership in general. And I know this verse, but I've committed, I'm going to memorize it. But the verse is Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is in the hands of the Lord, and like rivers of water, he turns it wherever he wishes. And so that's what we have to recognize. We have to pray. I mean, literally, ladies, get down on your knees and ask the Lord to change the heart of those who don't understand or don't want to understand what's at stake, that don't care for the unborn, and whatever the issue is that will, bring them to yes on this bill. And will help them understand the importance of whether it's an economic argument. I just made the economic argument for you all. Whether it's the issue on cross-sex hormones, that's another one. Even if someone says, I'm not pro-life. Well, okay, here's a couple of other really good reasons that Planned Parenthood needs to go raise their own money, just like all of us do. We're out there asking our donors, and if what they're doing mattered, people would write checks. If it really was the only alternative to care, or really did care for the least of these, people would write checks. That's not where they are. And but yes, I would say pray, and specifically pray for the House and Senate and the president. Pray for the White House. It's one thing to sit on the sidelines and throw political grenades. It's another thing to lead and to actually help govern the country. And it is a very difficult job. I would never want that job. I'm grateful to be on the sidelines cheering them on, and also, cautioning the people that go awry. Our women are just at this moment so strong, and this is your Esther moment, ladies, to speak. And Esther 4:14, perhaps you were born for such a time as this. This is your moment, whether you're young or whether you're old. This is your moment to speak for truth, to be an Esther in this generation and speak to your leadership. And we're here. We've got all the information you need at Concerned Women for America and these other great organizations to give you the talking points you need. We're here to support you and to help women stand up for truth.
That's right. Yes, and thank you for that, Penny. You're right on. And the action item at the end of this webcast I was going to give you, but I should just give it to you now, is go, one of the places you can go is go to studentsforlifeaction.org/GOP. And at studentsforlifeaction.org/GOP right now, you can send an email to those moderate pro-choice GOP House members that Marjorie was talking about, telling them to prioritize defunding Planned Parenthood. And you can also go to studentsforlifeaction.org/defund and sign up. If you want some help, if you want to call your members of Congress with others, you can sign up for our Dial to Defund campaign, where we'll tell you the phone numbers, give you the script, even let you call with a team of people into your House of Representatives and members district and DC office, as well as your senators district and DC offices. So thank you for that, Penny. I really appreciate it. I want to bring on our last guest today before I debut a very video for you all, so stay tuned for that. Is my good friend David Bereit, Executive Director of the Life Leadership Conference. Obviously, you probably know of David Bereit and his famous webcasts and call to action for our pro-life movement. His resume is a who's who of pro-life activism. So David, I wanted you to wrap up this call, because we've gone through the kind of the nitty-gritty details with Marjorie about how we're at the beginning process, which is a miracle and an achievement on its own right, but we have this long way to go. We've heard from Abby about how Planned Parenthood is actually using our taxpayer dollars, and all those things you hear from the misinformation from the mainstream media is wrong, how there's better alternatives, that women are not going to go without care when big abortion is defunded of our tax dollars. We've heard from Penny the power of prayer, what we've got to do, which is we've got to keep calling, we've got to keep pressure on Congress. But David, I want to ask you one important question. Do you think our voices right now will really make a difference?
No question. Our voices will make a powerful, life-saving, nation-shaping difference if we use those voices right now. And I want to thank Marjorie, I want to thank Abby, I want to thank Penny for their strong, compelling words here. And also, Kristan, thanks to you for your leadership in hosting this event. As pro-lifers, we obviously are big fans of life, and we celebrate the birth of life. And sometimes we get to celebrate birthdays of special people at special times. And I just wanted to say, as we gather here today, we are gathered on somebody's birthday. Oh, and that's Kristan Hawkins' birthday. I won't say the year number. I think it's probably in the teens or early 20s. I'm not something like that. But here's what I want to first suggest. We've got an opportunity to strike right now like we've never had to defund Planned Parenthood, and that would be the best birthday gift you and I could ever give to Kristan Hawkins at this moment in time. So if you've ever been a fan of Kristan, if you've followed the work of Students for Life or Students for Life Action, this is our moment to give Kristan a gift that will also give many, many hundreds of thousands of other children a year the gift of life. Okay, so does our voice make a difference? A number of years ago, when I was living in Texas, I was running a small pro-life organization, and I went over to the Capitol in Austin, and we were having a pro-life lobby day in the Texas Capitol, and a large statewide organization leader was there. Good friend, great guy. But I went up to him at this lobby day and I said, I want to run around to all our legislators and I want to tell them that we need to defund Planned Parenthood of taxpayer funding here in the state of Texas. And you know what he told me? He said, it's impossible. We can't do that right now. We just don't have enough influence. We don't have enough power. We only have the legislature in session every 2 years. So let's do something much more modest this year. Maybe down the road, we'll have the opportunity to do it. And inside, I thought to myself, I'm going to prove this guy wrong. And I love him, but I recognize we have to be willing to swing for the fences. We have to be willing to go for the big goals, not just the modest goals. And the big goal is to defund Planned Parenthood. And so we worked aggressively, our little organization, lobbying legislators, mobilizing people in our town of Bryan, College Station, Texas, and spreading the word across the state. And Kristan, I'm so happy to report to you that ultimately, thanks to the state senator in our community, a guy named Steve Ogden, who was on the Senate Finance Committee, in the 11th hour, he introduced the first ever in the country measure to defund Planned Parenthood from the state budget, got it passed into law, signed by Governor Rick Perry. It was challenged in court. It went back and forth for several years, but ultimately that measure was successful at defunding Planned Parenthood of taxpayer dollars in the state of Texas. And the moment that happened, Planned Parenthood announced they were closing half of their facilities across the Lone Star State. And one of those facilities was the facility outside of which I started 40 Days for Life. It was the facility in College Station, Texas, that Abby Johnson, who we just heard from, used to be the director of. That facility closed its doors and went out of business due to prayers, efforts, people standing outside, sidewalk counseling, reaching out. But ultimately, the final straw was the taxpayer defunding of Planned Parenthood, and that facility closed. And then we have this iconic picture of the sign being torn down as that facility shut its doors, and we realize no more children will ever die there again. No more women will ever cry there again. And after that facility was closed down, local pro-life groups bought the facility, tore down the fence outside, and I have here on my desk this brick that was one of the bricks from the fence outside of the Planned Parenthood, on the other side of which Abby Johnson used to come out and call us choice names, and the brick was engraved redeemed because that facility was redeemed. Does our voice make a difference? Absolutely, it makes a difference. Don't let anybody tell you it's impossible. Is this a long shot right now? It may be, but it's the best shot we've ever had to strip $699.3 million of taxpayer funding from Planned Parenthood. So when Kristan tells you exactly who to call, what to say, what to do it. Do it today, do it tomorrow, do whatever we can. This is the moment to take action. And ultimately, one day soon, when that measure passes, when that budget passes without taxpayer funding of the largest abortion chain, where we're being forced to fund the largest abortion chain that last year killed 392,715 children at their facilities, when that measure strips away that taxpayer funding, when those facilities start to close their doors and tear down their signs and shut down, when that happens, we can know that we've been a part of history, that we've been a part of protecting innocent children. We've been a part of protecting mothers. We've been a part of protecting minors from the trans hormones that Penny was talking about. We have been a part of shaping our nation and our culture for good. Don't wait, make your voice heard, and yes, it will make a powerful difference. Don't let anybody tell you it's impossible, because we know with God, all things are possible, even stripping taxpayer funding from Planned Parenthood.
Amen, David. You are right on. You are the reason I saved you for last, because I wanted you to give us, it's still early here for me in Idaho, but I wanted you to give us the raw marching orders so we know we can get out there and get this job done, because you are absolutely right. I can't count how many times people told me we were never going to see Roe fall. I mean, I remember being at a gala with supporters and board members, and I had a friend who I cherished told me, you need to stop saying things like when Roe is reversed because you sound too naive and we all know it's never going to happen. And we saw it happen. Our generation saw this huge cultural, political shift happen in real time that we know is saving tens of thousands of lives. It's giving us the opportunity to pass laws in states to protect human children from the violence of abortion. Now we have this next opportunity. Nothing is too great for our God, the God who spoke the universe into existence. So thank you, David, for that. I want to reiterate the action item. I have a very special video I want to share with you all, where the pro-life movement has been working together for years. We've been working together for months now in this new presidential administration to defund Planned Parenthood. And we were just together all on Capitol Hill at the end of March for a massive lobby day with our friends at Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. Students for Life had our pink cross display. We display on college campuses out. We had a massive press conference. All of the pro-life movement was there united, calling on Congress to do the right thing and finally defund Planned Parenthood. And this video is going to run in about 10 seconds. But before that, I want to make sure you go to studentsforlifeaction.org/GOP. Start sending emails to your members of Congress. All right, let's roll the video.
The winds of change are blowing across America.
Today is a great day to stand for life.
For far too long, politicians and much of the media have ignored, trivialized, enabled, and whitewashed the business of Planned Parenthood.
I'm horrified that our nation, which champions the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, has denied those sacred rights to the most vulnerable among us.
Planned Parenthood didn't care about me. They didn't care about my baby. And they don't care about women.
Words like choice and right and reproductive health care do not change the reality of what abortion is, nor what it does.
Planned Parenthood does not offer health care. It's a political machine and the nation's largest abortion chain, killing over 1,000 innocent children every single day.
We're going to fight back in the courts until every life is cherished, every life is protected, and every life is loved and represented under the law.
I was always told it'll be a cold day in hell before we defund Planned Parenthood. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little chilly today.
Shout from the rooftops that big abortion is bad for women and Planned Parenthood does not deserve a single cent more of American taxpayer money.
Let me be clear on this. 0 taxpayer dollars should be used to pay for abortion.
Now is the time to defund Planned Parenthood.
American taxpayers should never be forced to pay for the murder of innocent babies. But that's exactly what Congress has allowed to happen.
Congress should waste no time cutting off their funding.
Our #1 legislative priority is to end taxpayer funding of abortion giant Planned Parenthood, not only now, not only in this coming fiscal year, but forever.
All right, that was awesome. I want to thank you all for joining. I've got just a few more remarks and then we'll wrap up. As you all have heard today, the stakes are now life and death. While we don't have a national abortion reporting law, we know that there's at least 1 million preborn babies' lives that are ended every year by the violence of abortion. Thank you all for joining us today for this massive event and this critical event. The stakes right now are life and death. We don't have a national abortion reporting law, but we know that there are at least 1 million children every year who are being violently killed by abortion. And this powerful lobby that kills children comes for GOP legislators with the same ferocity that they come from the preborn because of our taxpayer support. And we are all being forced to keep their lights on, their staff paid, and allowing them to continue to kill babies. In the election that President Trump won in a landslide, voters had a chance to choose radical support for abortion, and they said no. Christian and faith-motivated voters made up 74% of the electorate, and 56% of them looked to President Trump for leadership, to do the right thing for everyone, born and preborn. To end the forced funding of abortion vendors, our elected leaders in Washington need to hear from you. And you need to tell them our scarce taxpayer dollars should never be going to Planned Parenthood and big abortion. This is what you need to do. Call your members of Congress, your House Representatives member, call their district office, call their DC office, call your 2 US senators, call their district officers, their DC offices, go pay their district offices a visit. This is all online, all on the web, on their website, on the Senate or House. Super easy. Right now, send a message. Go to studentsforlifeaction.org/GOP and send an instant email to the moderate pro-choice members of the House, demanding that they stay with the rest of the U.S. Congress, the rest of the Republican Party, and finally defunding big abortion. Also, if you want to make calls, but you don't have a script or you don't know the number or who are the prime U.S. House of Representatives members that need to hear from us, the pro-life generation, go to studentsforlifeaction.org/defund, and you can sign up to be part of our Dial to Defund Day, where you'll be dialing, making phone calls with thousands of pro-life students across the country. So we need you. I'm going to read you a list right now for a closeout. Pay attention to this list. These are the folks that especially must hear from us. Alaska, Senator Lisa Murkowski. Arizona, Congressman David Schweikert. Arizona, Congressman Juan Cismano. California, Congressman Kevin Keeley. California, Congressman Vince Fong. California, Congressman Young Kim. Florida Senator Rick Scott. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley. These guys are pro-life, but these guys are in leadership. They need to hear that this is important. Iowa, Congressman Zach Nunn. Idaho, Senator Mike Crapo. Indiana, Senator Mike Todd Young. Kentucky, Congressman Brett Guthrie. Kentucky, Congressman Hal Rogers. Louisiana, Bill Cassidy. Once again, great pro-lifer, but needs to hear from us that this is a pro-life, majority, and that we demand action. Maine, Senator Susan Collins. Michigan, Congressman John James. North Carolina, Senator Tom Tillis. Nebraska, Congressman Don Bacon. New Jersey, Congressman Tom King. New York, Congressman Mike Lawler. Congressman, New York, Andrew Garbino. New York, Congresswoman Nicole Mariakis. New York, Congressman Nick Lalolda. Ohio, Senator Bernie Moreno. He's new, pro-life, but he needs to hear from us. Pennsylvania, Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick. South Carolina, Senator Tim Scott. South Carolina, Congressman Nancy Mace, especially call her. South Dakota, Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Tennessee, Congressman Scott Jarlis. Texas, Senator John Cornyn. Texas, Congressman Monica De La Cruz. Virginia, Congresswoman Jen Keegan, who said she's pro-choice. Wyoming, Senator Ron Johnson. Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson. Wyoming, Senator John Barrasso. Some of these folks have been pro-life leaders on the Hill for years. Some of these folks have said they're pro-life, but they're brand new. And others are Republican, but pro-choice. These are our folks we need to be calling. They need to hear from us, the pro-life generation. Thank you all for joining us today. Go to studentsforlifeaction.org/GOP and studentsforlifeaction.org/defund. Sign up, join us, call your members of Congress today. This is it. This is the critical moment. Thank you for joining us.